Imagine trying to build like a comprehensive dietary plan using just one single sentence.
Right, just one.
Yeah, I mean, no complex macronutrient percentages, no exhausting lists of banned ingredients, and absolutely no calorie counting math to do at the end of every day.
Which is a relief, honestly.
Oh, totally. But you have to ask, could one single, highly concentrated sentence actually rival the most complex, mathematically engineered regimens on Earth? Because usually, when we talk about a dietary plan, there is this expectation of extreme complexity.
Oh, absolutely.
You are constantly checking the math to make sure the whole thing doesn't just collapse on itself.
Well, it's the modern obsession with quantification, I think.
Yeah.
People feel that if a dietary philosophy isn't like a giant spreadsheet of micromeasurements and binary rules, it somehow lacks scientific rigor.
Right, like it's not a real diet if it's not complicated.
Exactly. But we are looking at a piece of source material today that completely upends that assumption. It delivers a framework that is the absolute definition of dietary simplicity, yet it possesses profound structural integrity.
And that's exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We are taking a single, incredibly dense piece of source material regarding the Mediterranean diet, and we are going to extract the underlying mechanics for you.
It's a fascinating exercise.
It really is. So our text repeatedly hammers home one foundational thesis. It states, and I'll just read it here, the Mediterranean diet focuses on vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains, olive oil, nuts, and seeds, and other minimally processed foods to support healthy living and weight management.
And that's it.
That's it. That is the entire universe we are exploring today. And when you realize there are no external facts, no secondary rules, you realize how much weight every single word in that sentence has to carry.
Yeah, when a text distills an entire behavioral philosophy down to a single sentence, we really have to treat it as a masterclass in deliberate communication. We cannot just gloss over a word like legumes or support. We have to look at what those words mean structurally, biologically, and psychologically. I mean, the brevity isn't an accident.
No, not at all.
It is an intentional signal that if you understand the algorithm within this one sentence, you just don't need a spreadsheet.
Okay, let's unpack this and test that theory. Let's zoom in on the very first part of this thesis.
Sounds good.
So, before we get into any nuanced rules or the ultimate goals, the text explicitly dictates the ground floor. It says the diet focuses on vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains. Those four elements are listed first.
Right.
To me, if we think of a diet like, building a house, these four are the bedrock. They are the brain mortar, the structural integrity.
Yeah, I take it a step further than just a static foundation, actually.
Oh, how so?
Well, if we look at the biological mechanics, these four categories, vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, they represent fibrous bulk and complex structural density. They aren't just sitting there in your stomach. They are actively dictating how the human body digests everything else that comes after them.
Wow, okay.
The text leads with them because they command the most physical volume in the digestive tract.
That makes sense. But consider the sequential ordering here. Is the author just listing things randomly?
Definitely not.
Right. I mean, listing vegetables and fruits first, before we even get to the denser legumes or grains, that has to suggest a specific hierarchy, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly why is a piece of fruit mentioned before a grain?
The sequence is essentially an implicit instruction manual for proportion.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. By leading with vegetables and fruits, the text establishes a hierarchy of volume driven by water and immediate nutrient density. You lay down the most water-rich, voluminous items first.
Okay, the watery stuff first.
Exactly. Then you reinforce that biological environment with the denser, slower to digest complex carbohydrates, which are found in the legumes and the whole grains.
It's just building up in density.
Yes. It is a progression from the highest water content to the most structurally complex plant elements. It's dictating a physical reality in the stomach without giving you a single cup measurement or gram to weigh out.
Oh, wow. It does the heavy lifting of portion control silently.
It really does.
But the verb here is what catches my attention, too. The text says the diet focuses on these items. That feels like a massive departure from typical dietary language,
How do you mean?
Well, it doesn't say restricted to. It doesn't say exclusively consists of.
Yes. Focuses on is arguably the most psychologically crucial phrase in the first half of the text.
Really? Psychologically crucial.
Absolutely. Think about it. When a dietary rule says restricted to, it creates a psychological prison cell.
Oh, yeah, it totally does. You just want what you can't have.
Right. It induces a scarcity mindset, which often leads to behavioral failure.
Yeah.
But focuses on establishes a center of gravity.
A center of gravity.
Yeah, it means this plant-based foundation is where your attention and the vast majority of your intake go, but it inherently leaves the periphery open.
So it's acknowledging human reality.
Yes,
You
exactly.
build the bedrock out of plants, but you don't have to live in terror of stepping off the bedrock for a moment as long as the gravity pulls you back.
It shifts the entire burden from perfect compliance to consistent orientation.
Consistent orientation. I love that phrase.
Because if your center of gravity is firmly rooted in those 4 plant categories, the occasional deviation doesn't shatter the system.
Right.
The structural density of the legumes and grains, combined with the sheer volume of the vegetables and fruits, it creates a metabolic momentum that is very hard to derail.
But I mean, building a center of gravity out of just vegetables and legumes leaves a massive gap in how the human body actually sustains energy over long periods, doesn't it?
It does.
Like if you stop there, the diet fails because you run out of functional fuel. You'd just be hungry.
You would.
And I think that's why the text immediately pivots to the next clause. It introduces the specific energy-dense additions, saying olive oil, nuts, and seeds.
Exactly. We are shifting here from structural volume to sustained thermal energy.
Thermal energy.
Yeah, if we go back to your building analogy, or let's use a fire
So
analogy.
don't let the fire.
Vegetables and fruits are like kindling, right? They provide quick, accessible flashes of energy. Legumes and grains are like thicker branches.
Got it.
But nuts, seeds, and specific lipids are the dense, slow-burning logs in a fireplace. They provide the sustained heat that prevents the metabolic fire from just burning out entirely.
I am tracking with the slow-burning log analogy for nuts and seeds. But I have to push back a little on the text's strange level of specificity here.
Okay, push back.
Because up until this point, we have been dealing with massive sweeping categories.
Sure.
Like vegetables covers an astronomical number of plants. Fruits covers thousands more. Then, suddenly, out of nowhere, the text lasers in on one highly specific, singular item. Olive oil. Why not just use a broad term like fats or plant oils? Why single out this one specific liquid?
Because if the text just said fats, the entire biological mechanism of the diet could be compromised.
Really, just from one word.
Yes. Broad categories work for fibrous plants because the metabolic response to different vegetables is generally pretty similar.
Okay, a carrot and a broccoli act somewhat similarly.
Exactly. But the metabolic response to different fats is radically divergent. By explicitly mandating olive oil, the text is drawing a hard biological line in the sand regarding the exact lipid profile it requires.
Ah, so it's like the signature on a painting, almost.
How so?
Well, the vegetables and grains are the broad strokes on the canvas, right? But the olive oil is the definitive signature that tells you exactly what kind of masterpiece you're looking at.
I like the imagery, but I challenge the idea that it's just an aesthetic signature.
Fair enough.
It's much more functional than that. It is a biochemical anchor.
An anchor.
Yeah. Olive oil interacts with the fibrous bedrock we just discussed in a very, very specific way. It slows down gastric emptying.
Oh, wow.
It actually alters the absorption of the nutrients from those vegetables, and it provides a specific density of energy that stabilizes blood sugar. The text is so specific because olive oil isn't just an addition, you know. It is the metabolic governor for the whole system.
So, by grouping olive oil with nuts and seeds, the text creates a very distinct triad of functional fats.
Yes.
It's a rhythm. Broad structural plants, followed by a highly specific, concentrated cluster of energy sources.
And it narrows the focus precisely where human behavior tends to go off the rails.
Oh, that is so true.
Right. People generally don't overconsume or mismanage broad categories of fibrous vegetables. You don't see people binge eating kale.
Definitely not.
They mismanage their dense energy sources. The text anticipates this human flaw by being painstakingly specific about where that dense energy must come from.
Okay, so we have the broad bedrock of plants, and we have the specific, slow-burning logs of functional fats. Now we arrive at what is easily the most fascinating and honestly probably the most consequential part of the entire source text.
I agree completely.
We move from specific food items to a sweeping, unifying categorization. The text rounds out the list by adding the phrase, and other minimally processed foods.
A huge phrase.
To me, this phrase acts like a strict bouncer at an exclusive VIP club. Only foods meeting this specific criteria can get past the velvet rope to join the legumes and the olive oil on your plate.
I understand the VIP bouncer analogy, I really do, but Well, it implies a sort of arbitrary elitism, like keeping things out just for the sake of exclusivity.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I think this phrase acts more like a structural stress test or an algorithm. It isn't about status. It is about a threshold of biological integrity.
An algorithm. Okay, unpack that for me, because minimally processed sounds like a pretty straightforward rule, not a piece of code.
Well, look at the word other. By saying other minimally processed foods, the text is fundamentally altering everything it just told us.
Wait, how so?
Think about it. Is the source explicitly categorizing everything it previously mentioned, the whole grains, the olive oil, the nuts, as minimally processed as well?
Oh, yes. It has to be. Yes.
That one single word, other, reaches backward and applies a new universal standard to the entire list.
Oh, wow. That completely shifts the paradigm.
Right.
The algorithm isn't just checking the new arrivals at the door. It is the defining characteristic of the foods already inside.
Exactly.
It tells us that this diet isn't actually a list of ingredients at all. It is an algorithm for evaluating the state of the food itself.
Precisely. The Mediterranean diet, according to this highly condensed text, is fundamentally defined by the lack of alteration to the food.
Lack of alteration.
Yeah, if you take a whole grain, right, and strip away its fibrous outer layer until it's just white dust like white flour, it is no longer the whole grain the text demanded, because it fails the algorithmic test of being minimally processed.
This brings up a vital philosophical distinction in the text phrasing, though.
What's that?
It deliberately says minimally processed. It does not say unprocessed.
Ah, a very important distinction.
If we assume they chose every word carefully, and we have been, why make that concession? Why not just demand completely unprocessed food?
Because demanding completely unprocessed food is, quite frankly, a rejection of human civilization.
A rejection of civilization. That's a strong way to put it.
But it's true. To get olive oil, you must press olives and separate the liquid. That is a mechanical process.
True.
To consume legumes safely, you must soak and boil them to neutralize anti-nutrients. That is a thermal process.
Right. You can't just eat raw beans.
Exactly. By choosing the word minimally, the text actively rejects the modern wellness trend of raw, uncompromising dogmatism.
It's a massive concession to culinary reality.
Yes.
It's saying, like, we acknowledge that humans cook and prepare food, but you must stop the processing at the exact moment the food becomes edible and functional. Like, before you strip away its structural integrity.
Yes, and it creates a realistic standard of living. When you highly process a food, you essentially pre-digest it.
Pre-digest it. Ugh, that sounds gross, but it makes sense.
You remove the fiber, you extract the complex matrix, and you just hand the body a dose of pure, instant energy. By demanding minimal processing, the text is insisting that the food retain its complex matrix.
So your body has to work for it.
Exactly, so that your biological systems, your stomach, your intestines, your metabolism have to do the actual work of digestion.
So the algorithm is essentially checking. Did a factory do the digesting for you, or is your body going to do it?
That's a great way to put it.
And if the factory did it, it doesn't meet the diet's focus.
Right.
Wow. We've essentially built an entire physical system here.
We have.
We have the foundational bedrock of plants, the slow-burning energy of specific fats, and the algorithm of minimal processing, ensuring the integrity of the whole structure.
It's remarkably cohesive.
It really is. So having established exactly what this system is made of and how it governs inclusion, we finally arrive at the final destination, the outcomes.
The dual destination, to be specific.
Yes, the dual destination.
The entire reason we are running this algorithm in the first place.
Right. So the text states that these foods support healthy living and weight management. It is a two-for-one deal.
It is.
But honestly, I look at the verb they chose here, and it feels, I don't know, legally evasive to me.
Evasive? How so?
They use the word support. It doesn't say these minimally processed foods cause healthy living, and it doesn't say they guarantee weight management. Doesn't support sound like the kind of weak, non-committal language you hear on a late-night supplement commercial?
Well, I think that is a very cynical read on the language, honestly.
You think so?
I do, and I'd argue it completely misses the biological reality the text is actually trying to convey. The word support isn't evasive at all. It is the most scientifically accurate verb they could have possibly chosen.
Okay, defend that. Why isn't cause more accurate if this diet is as powerful as the text implies?
Because food cannot cause a state of being entirely on its own.
What do you mean?
Well, if you eat a massive bowl of lentils and olive oil, perfectly minimally processed, right?
Right.
But you sleep 2 hours a night and live under chronic, crushing stress, you will not achieve healthy living.
Oh, I see.
Support implies scaffolding. It implies a partnership. The food provides the optimal biological environment, the stabilized blood sugar, the essential fatty acids, the digestive fiber. But the human organism has to do the actual living.
So it's just the framework.
Yes. The diet supports the architecture, but it doesn't force the building to stand if there's an earthquake.
Okay, I see the nuance there. That makes sense. It's shifting the responsibility back to you.
Exactly.
The diet isn't a magic cure-all that overrides your lifestyle. It is the foundation that makes a healthy lifestyle biologically possible in the first place.
Precise.
But let's look closely at the two specific outcomes it claims to support here: healthy living and weight management. These are vastly different concepts operating on completely different scales.
They are, and placing them side by side like that is a brilliant distillation of the dietary goals.
How so?
Well, healthy living is qualitative. It is holistic, encompassing immune function, cognitive clarity, joint health, and longevity. It is a continuous, unquantifiable state of action.
Right. I mean, you can't step on a scale and measure exactly 3 units of healthy living.
Exactly, you can't.
But right next to it, we have weight management, which is fiercely quantitative.
Yeah.
It is a highly specific metric.
And by linking the qualitative and the quantitative, the source addresses the fatal flaw of most dietary regimens.
Which is?
Usually a diet hyper-focuses on the quantitative weight loss by employing extreme, unbalanced methods that actively destroy holistic health.
Oh, like crash diets.
Right. Or a philosophy focuses entirely on holistic wellness, but provides no mechanical framework for energy balance, which just leads to weight gain.
Right.
This single sentence insists that if you rely on minimally processed foods, the underlying mechanism stabilizes both the unmeasurable quality of your life and the measurable energy balance of your body.
The choice of the word management is fascinating too, now that I think about it.
It is.
Because the entire diet industry is built on the word loss. Weight loss, fat loss.
Yeah, true.
The psychology of loss implies a temporary aggressive plunge.
Yeah.
It implies an endpoint where you finally lose the thing you were fighting against. But this text specifically says management.
And management requires stewardship. The word loss implies a battle against your own body.
A battle, yeah.
When you try to force the body to lose something rapidly, it fights back biologically. It slows your metabolism and increases your hunger hormones.
It goes into survival mode.
Exactly. Management, however, implies equilibrium. It suggests that if you feed the system the fibrous bedrock and the slow-burning specific fats, you don't have to fight the body. The body naturally matches energy input with energy output over the long term.
It ties beautifully back to the realism of the word minimally from earlier, too.
Yes, it does.
It isn't about extreme temporary interventions. It is about an ongoing, sustainable relationship with food. You manage your weight the way you manage a sturdy house, through consistent foundational upkeep, not through a series of emergency demolitions.
The entire sentence is a closed loop of logic.
Closed loop. I love that.
You maintain equilibrium management because you are running an algorithm, minimal processing, that prioritizes foods, plants, and specific fats that align with human biology rather than overriding it.
It really is staggering how much architectural weight is hidden inside one seemingly simple sentence.
It is.
When you stop skimming and actually look at the structural load of each individual word, the sequence, the specific exclusions, the deliberate algorithms, it completely changes how you view the whole philosophy.
It shifts the perspective away from viewing the Mediterranean diet as just a cultural menu and redefines it as a biological operating system.
A biological operating system. That is the perfect way to phrase it.
Thank you.
So we have unpacked this incredibly dense core thesis. Let's synthesize what we've actually discovered today for everyone listening.
Good idea.
According to our deeply concentrated source material, the Mediterranean diet is not just a grocery list.
Far from it.
It is a sequential, biologically logical focus on foods that provide physical volume and sustained energy.
Yes.
The ultimate golden rule, tying all those components together, is the algorithm of minimal processing, essentially forcing the body, rather than a factory, to do the work of digestion.
That's the key.
And by running that algorithm, you provide the scaffolding necessary to support a 2-for-1 outcome: the qualitative state of holistic living and the quantitative equilibrium of managing your weight.
The foundation, the functional energy, the algorithm, and the equilibrium. A complete system mapped out in a few dozen words.
So for you listening right now, the real takeaway from this deep dive isn't just a mandate to, add a few almonds or an extra serving of broccoli to your plate today.
No, it's bigger than that.
The takeaway is a challenge to look at the underlying algorithmic integrity of your own daily food choices. Are you building your metabolic foundation with dense, biologically complex materials? Or have the foods you rely on been so heavily altered that they no longer demand anything from your digestive system?
And if we look at the negative space of this text, what it implies by omission, it raises a profound, almost unsettling question to leave you with.
Ooh, I love looking at the negative space. What does the omission tell us?
Well, if this source explicitly defines this highly successful, deeply supportive system by its strict reliance on minimally processed foods to achieve health and equilibrium,
Yeah.
what does that imply about the modern default reliance on highly processed foods?
Wow.
By definition, based on the mechanical logic we just analyzed, does straying from minimal processing inherently work against our body's natural ability to manage weight and live healthily?
That is a staggering implication.
Think about it mechanically. If the intact minimal matrix of a food supports the system by regulating digestion and energy, does the ultra-processed, pre-digested nature of modern food actively dismantle that system? If you remove the algorithm, does the entire qualitative and quantitative structure of your health just collapse?
That is heavy.
It is something critical to mull over the next time you are standing in a grocery aisle, turning a package over, and trying to decipher a massive, artificially engineered nutrition label.
That is a paradigm-shifting thought to end on. You simply cannot expect a building to stand if the materials have been pulverized before you even lay the foundation. You have to respect the biological bedrock, and you absolutely must run the algorithm on what goes on your plate. Until next time, keep digging deeper.